Now I'm going to show you how to do a spore suspension prep. You will do this when you need to isolate a strain of Streptomyces and keep it in Glycerol stock for you to use in other experiments. To do this, you need 70% ethanol, white roll, a waste bin, an Eppendorf rack, and a 15 ml Falcon tube rack. And you will need 2 sterile Falcon tubes per sample that you're doing. I'm only going to be doing 1. You will need some sterile blue tips and the blue pipette that fits in them, sterile 20% glycerol, sterile water, sterile cotton buds, sterile Eppendorfs, and a sterile syringe that you have previously prepared. So before you do your spore suspension protocol, the day before, make sure you've got everything ready and autoclaved. To make a sterile syringe that you will need for your spore suspension protocol, you get one of the 20 milliliters syringes, you open it and open it, you get a little bit of cotton, put it in there, and with a pen just push it down and make sure it's there. Then you get a bit of foil, you just put that in there, and you close it, and now this is ready to go in the autoclave to be sterilized. So to make a spore suspension, this is what you need on the first step to have in the laminar flow hood. You plate with your spores ready to collect, some water, the tips, and the cotton bud, and the Falcon tubes, and the syringe. So the first thing you need to do is to add 10 milliliters of water to this plate so that you can collect the spores. You can use one of the Falcon tubes just to measure the 10 milliliters of water. It doesn't have to be an absolute exact number, just get as close to 10 as you can. You open your spore plate and you just put the water in. And as you can see, Streptomyces are really hydrophobic and the water doesn't want to mix with the spores. You get a cotton bud, making sure that the end that you're going to put on the plate doesn't touch anything else. If it does by mistake, just put it on the waste bin and get a fresh one. And then you get hold of the plate and you gently scrape the surface to make sure that you get all of the spores out. Once you have done this, you put your cotton bud into the waste bin, and now you're ready to collect that water and put it on the same Falcon tube that you used to pour that water. To do this safely, use one of the tips. Make sure the pipette is at 1000 microliters, and just gently tilt the plate and start collecting that water. When you finish, you release the tip and put it on the waste bin. And you can get this plate out of there now and leave it here. This plate will have to go onto the autoclave bag as it needs to be killed. And as you can see, I did spill a little bit of the water when I was putting it on the plate, so I need to make sure that it's clean. So small bit of ethanol and you wipe it off. Make sure it's sterile and clean. Now you've got your water with your spores in here, but apart from the spores there's also a lot of other things, as you can see in there. So that's why we use a syringe to filter all of those out. So you close this, you open your syringe parcel. Try to be careful as not to break the foil. So you get your second empty falcon tube. Oops. You get the syringe, you put it in there. And now you can pour all of the liquid into that syringe. You now filter this down. And you can put the syringe back in there. So you now, as you can see, you've cleared all of that debris out. And this falcon tube is now ready to be centrifuged so that all the spores go to the bottom of the tube, to the pellet. And make sure you get the syringe out, and again it will have to go to the autoclave bag. So we need to centrifuge the spores so that they go at the bottom and we can resuspend them in glycerol. To do this, we'll be using this centrifuge. First of all, you need to switch it on, so make sure that the plug is on, and then it's got another plug on the side. And now you can see the centrifuge is on. 50 ml falcon tubes go on these adapters. So you put one there, and because we've only got one sample, we need a balance for the centrifuge to work. So you just get another falcon tube, fill it up with 10 milliliters of water, because it's going to be the same weight as what you're using, and you locate it on the opposite side of where you put your sample so that they can balance themselves. Once you have done that, you close the lid. 4,000 RPM is the appropriate speed for this, and 10 minutes is the appropriate time for it. So once you've got everything set, if you need to change it, just press it and move either up or down, and it will change it. And you just press start. Stay with the centrifuge to make sure that it reaches the speed safely, because if it's not balanced, it will stop itself, and then you just need to make sure it's balanced properly. Once the centrifuge has finished, then you just press open the lid, and get your sample out of your spores. Get the balance out as well, and leave it by the centrifuge. If you're not going to use the centrifuge anymore, just make sure that you close it down and you switch it off. And now we have to go back to the laminar flow hood to finish this protocol. So we're back with the spores, which are now at the bottom of the falcon in the laminar flow hood. First thing that you need to do is to get a sterile epindoff. To get them out, just pick them out like this to make sure that you don't touch the other epindoffs, and put the rest back in. Make sure you label this epindoff, so use a marker pen to do that. Make sure you label them both on the top and on the side, as always. And write your name and the date. put the appender from the appender rack, and now you're ready to start. So open the falcon tube that you had left from before, open the one that has got your spores, and in a single movement, and don't be scared, the spores are not going to fall anywhere, just pour that water out into the falcon. And as you can see, there's always going to be a bit of residual liquid, but the spores are still in there. So now we need to resuspend these spores with 20% glycerol, and that will be our spore suspension ready. This spore prep hasn't got much of a pellet, so we're not going to add much glycerol to it. So we'll get about 250 microliters. That will be about right for this one. If you had a bigger pellet, then you just increase the volume accordingly, and just feel free to come and ask with me if you're not sure. So 250, and now you just get your glycerol, get your spores, and gently resuspend it by mixing it up and down. Once you've resuspended them, make sure you transfer them to your sterile appender, and make sure you get all of the liquid out. And get rid of your teeth. Make sure that all of the waste goes into the waste bucket, and clean the cabinet before you finished. Now this is our spore suspension, which can be used to grow your strain from here on, and this will be kept at -20 degrees in the freezer in your box.